Well, I was born and raised in Napoleonville. Attended middle school, elementary school in Napoleonville. Went on to Assumption. I graduated in 1977, and then went on to Nichols. The only sport at the time, my first 3 years of high school, was track. And I was not very good at track and field, so I actually was kind of like a student manager for Miss Mert Blanchard. Or the beginning of my junior year, we started a club volleyball program. Miss Blanchard started the program. We may have played just a couple of matches that year, and then my senior year, we actually competed. And had a very good team. I did a little serving on that team, but again, I was not a very, good athlete as far as vertical jump and strength and things of that nature that all tie into being a good volleyball player. But I did have a good serve, so I did get to play. We actually won the regional championship for the area that year. I actually started in business. And first couple of years, I was a business major. And then after taking some of those accounting and economic courses, I was like, you know what, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I went ahead and changed my major. I actually, ironically, ended up teaching accounting while I was at Assumption. And so once I changed my major, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, become a health and phys ed teacher. I wanted to coach. And actually, when I got to Nichols, a couple of my very good friends ended up making the volleyball team there. So at the time, Miss Marion Curtis was the head volleyball coach, and I went and asked if I could serve as a student manager, statistician, whatever. My last year at Nichols, we started the softball team, and that was always my first love. I played summer ball, and I ended up making the very first softball team at Nichols. As it turns out, the accounting teacher that was at Assumption was getting ready to retire. So I kind of slid into that position, and Miss Mert Blanchard also decided to step down. Myself and this other coach, Stacy Adams, sat down with Mr. Lynn Izan, who was superintendent at the time, and he pretty much called us in and he said, Sandy, you're gonna coach volleyball because you know a little bit about volleyball. Stacy, you're gonna coach basketball because she was a big basketball person, and y'all both gonna coach track. Volleyball-wise, Chip Didier had a lot to do with the success early on. I used to go to his house and we'd sit in his kitchen table and just talk strategies. And I remember him telling me, Sandy, when you first start, you're gonna be tempted to just tell those young girls to just get the ball over. And he said, if you really want to build a program, you need to stress that 3 contact. You need to pass it, you need to set it, and then you need to culminate with a swing. And he said it's going to be tough to do sometimes because you're going to lose points by trying to do so. But in the long run, that's how you're going to build your program. And I always remember that. And Chip helped me tremendously as a young coach. Kia Converse came first. And, Kia actually started as a freshman and was on the court when we won the state championship in 1992. With Kia, we were able, the coaching staff and I were able to make her become a great volleyball player and not just a great athlete. With Kim, early on, same scenario. But once Kim started training with USA Volleyball, she came back just a totally different volleyball player. And, I'm not embarrassed to say she taught me some things. A lot of coaches probably have athletes like this that are, I'm good and I know it. Kim was never like that. She was always, I never once felt intimidated having her as a player because she was awesome.
Right side, Willoughby cracking down the line.
Kim Willoughby's worth the price of admission. An amazing athletic attacker with a great arm. It's nice to see for the United States squad that they have brought her in.
The driving force behind Hannah Brister, though, I think was her mom, Scotty. She used to take her to every imaginable camp and clinic that there was, you know, and then look at her now, you know, and what she's accomplished. You know, she trained with the junior national team. You know, she's at LSU now on the big stage, and she has just, you know, I think she's accomplished everything that she set out to do as a volleyball player.
She pushes me to my limit, like, a lot of times. But she makes me love the game every day, like, more and more than I already do.
When we did win that first state championship, and the trophies were just tremendously high at that time. My 6-year-old daughter, Lindsay, at the time, I brought the trophy, and she ran up to me, and she gave me a big hug, and she told me how proud she was of me. And it was at that very moment, and I told Boyd, I said, I know now that this is what I'm meant to do. Because if I can make this 6-year-old child proud of me, having her mother taken away from her for countless hours and traveling and jumping from gym to gym, and we can still care for our children just like a normal parent would, I knew then that I was doing the right thing. The 2009 state championship, I had a group of seniors that year that, you know, were not like a Hannah Brister or a Kia Converse. We didn't have one of those Kim Willoughbys on that team, but we had a group of seniors whose leadership was just over the top. And I think they wielded that state championship for us that year because they just never gave up. They worked extremely hard, and of all the state championship teams, that's got to be the one. There was always pressure. You know, my good friend Peter Verrett is the one that handed us that loss that afternoon. It was like devastating. I mean, it was, I can't describe it. You know, I had the task of trying to get them back on the court the next day to practice. And, you know, I think, looking back, I think we may have just said, you know, y'all go home and just relax, and we're gonna start fresh, you know, when you come back tomorrow. I met him the summer after we had graduated. Actually, it was supposed to be a blind date that his brother had set up. So, you know, his brother introduced us, and we just got to know each other. Lindsay was born in 1984, Morgan in 1988. And I mean, you know, Boyd and my 2 children are just, I mean, they're my life. You know, athletics at Assumption High School and the Assumption community gave me an opportunity to raise my 2 children and have our family just part of something that's very, very special. They were both all-state volleyball players. Lindsay, I think, loves softball a little bit more than Morgan. And Morgan teases me about it today. She says, you know, Mom, I'd have been a great tennis player. But, I mean, they both were successful in softball as well.
I've always looked up to her as a role model. And if I truly wanted to be a coach, which I do, I can't think of anyone else to better learn from.
My assistant coaches have been just outstanding over the years. You know, I've had the opportunity to work with so many. I don't want to forget anyone, but you know, just to name a few, Tara Campo obviously took over for me at Assumption once I retired. Kia Converse is still part of the program. My daughter Morgan actually was an assistant coach the last few years. Boyd even was penciled in as an assistant coach, you know, in some of our seasons. So, you know, there's just countless individuals. Lady by the name of Gloria Hunter was an assistant coach for me when we first started. And you know how they say opposites attract? Definitely opposites attract, because she was like outgoing, just outspoken. She just told you like it was, and I'm kind of laid back and quiet. But I'll never forget, you know, what she did for me and just anyone that's been a part of our program.
She's like my second mom, I call her. You know, she's always there. I could call her for whatever I need. But I think what I've learned so much about her, she cares about everyone.
I would tell people, you know, the time has to be completely right for me to walk away. And it was always, you know, that little 1% that just kept me hanging on. You know, Boyd and I both retired from softball before I retired from volleyball, just simply because physically the game got tough. You know, to do it right, you had to throw batting practice, you had to hit fungo, and, you know, you had to do all of those physical things, and it just got to be too much. Volleyball was a little different. You know, like I said, I had that 1% that just said you need to keep, you know, you need to keep doing this. And then it got to a point where practices were becoming a task. I loved the competition, but on a daily basis, I said, you know, this is it. You know, I think I have to first and foremost mention my parents. They were always very supportive. They were at, you know, until they couldn't, they were at all of the softball games, all of the volleyball games. Oftentimes they tried to coach me up a little bit, you know, and tell me what we did wrong that, you know, that day. But, you know, I would think that the values and the morals that I have in my life today are because of them. I mentioned Miss Mert Blanchard. Early on, she taught me just a lot about how to be a successful coach, and none of it had to do with X's and O's. It was how you handled yourself with young girls. I have to mention a very good friend of mine who I lost at a very early age, Elizabeth Martinez, Elizabeth Bergeron, passed away of cancer back in 2003, I believe. I had the pleasure of coaching both of her daughters. We were extremely close to the family. She was always an inspiration for me and a sounding board. Don Torres was always, he was always there when I needed him to be. You know, his wife Kim referred to us as work husband and wife. And, you know, the years that Don was not at Assumption were very trying on me. A role model to so many young women. And again, just like Miss Mert, it wasn't really about, you know, I just talked about a quote that I pulled up on Facebook this morning. You know, she said, winning is never the point. You know, wanting to win is the point. And trying to do your very best at all times is the point. Just recently, a few years ago, Kia started a program. And she's the director, but I coach for her, Morgan coaches for her. So that's one way to stay involved in the game and compete, which I thoroughly love. This particular season, I'm coaching little 10-year-olds. So it's a lot of fun. It's always positive, you know, and I help Morgan with a little 12-year-old group. But at that level, you're still teaching the game. You know, you get into the older age groups, they kind of think, oh, I understand this, and, you know, they kind of have their own agenda, but these young kids are just give it to me. And I really enjoy that part of it. Thibodeau Regional has afforded me the opportunity to take my love of the game and pass it on to a lot of the young girls in the community. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.